Dan, it's great to see you're back. Well, I guess it's great to see everything.
Yes, I am back, but I'm telling you, I'm feeling behind. I'm feeling stressed out now.
Yeah, why you had a bunch of work pile up while you were out of town?
Yeah, it's one of those things, when you get back from a vacation and you almost then need a vacation from the vacation because it's like for instance at work, you leave for 3 days, you come back, your inbox is so full of emails it takes you another day just to get caught up.
Yeah. So you consider your trip to Boonville, New York, a vacation? Is that what you're calling it?
Well, I think I kind of have to because the wife came along. We did some sightseeing. We did some exploring, some adventuring. So it was kind of a bit of a vacation, yes.
Yeah, but you also spent practically the entire weekend in front of the camera.
Well, not too much, but yeah, we did. I went to the show, the Woodsman's Field Day show up in Boonville, New York.
Woodsmen Field Day 2023, and this is in Boonville, New York, and this is a yearly event.
Yes.
Do you know how long it's been going on?
I don't remember. A long time. A very long time, I think.
Yeah. It is a local institution up there, from what I understand. I noticed in a lot of the video footage that I watched of other people who were there too, saw a lot of older couples walking around.
Yeah.
Looking at the machines.
Yeah, I kind of got the sense that it's more of like a local, like you said, like a local event that maybe, started a while back and then just kind of started growing more and more in size and popularity, but it still had that sense of like being real local, like not a national draw, so to say.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So was this at a fairgrounds? Why don't you talk about the layout and the where you stayed, the parking, just getting up to the place? Were there long lines? Was it just some guy sitting on a stool next to a snow fence, taking donations?
The big factor for the whole trip was the weather. And you know how we love to talk about the weather here on the Hounds podcast.
I don't know what you're talking about, but whatever.
But it rained, I think, a few days leading up to the show, and then the Friday, the first day of the show, it was raining. I mean, just coming down like you wouldn't believe. So the parking, there was first of all, backtrack a little bit. So I stayed down in Utica, New York, which was about a 25-minute drive up to the show. And I think it's kind of held in, it's not really like a fairgrounds. I think it used to be somewhat like some type of little event location, but it's kind of growing out into like some of the street. They section off the street and, make room for everything. But the parking, the first day, was out in this big field, and every which way you looked, there was a vehicle stuck at some point.
Oh, gosh.
Because they also had like people who would come with their RVs and campers, and yeah, it was there were ruts everywhere. Everything was tore up, standing water. Just a mess.
So not only did it rain, but it had been raining, so the ground was pretty soft. Sounds like it. Yeah. How many did your shoes make it through the weekend?
They did not. Well, so I only had one pair of shoes with me, and on Friday they just became soaked and covered with mud. So for Saturday I stopped and just bought a cheap pair of rubber boots and wore those around because everything inside the event was also muddy and wet and just they were trying to like put down wood chips and some stuff, but it just didn't work. Like you would always end up having to walk through mud or water.
Oh gosh.
So I think that kind of turned some people away. I think the attendance might have been down. I'm not sure. This is my first time ever going, but it just felt like Friday wasn't as busy as it maybe should have been because of the weather.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I saw that. I'm just going off of some live streams and then some videos that other channels had posted, and it didn't look like there was a lot of people there. Looked like it was kind of thinly attended.
Yeah. And the other thing, and I don't want this to like, so I'm not coming across as trying to like nitpick things apart here, but the one thing I did notice compared to other events that I've been at is this one kind of had a feel of it was kind of spread out, and you never really, like, if you walk down one area, you'd end up somewhere that like it's just kind of ended, and then you'd have to go back and go down like another little path, and there was
Uh-huh.
no real like flow to the grounds, so to say.
Oh, wow. Maybe that's why it's more of like a local fair or a flea market instead of, a self-contained at a fairgrounds kind of a
Yeah.
event.
And I think just the space, I think they're just limited on space. So as they continue to grew over the last how many years, they kind of like started having to put things in, back in this corner and over in that side. And so that was the only thing that I kind of noticed when walking around is you never really, there was no
Yeah,
flow.
right. Yeah, I'm feeling it. I didn't see it, but I'm feeling what you're saying, and I'm trying to compare some other events that I've been to in my past, where I'm trying to better understand what you experienced up there. So that's what you're walking down an aisle, and it just blends right into a neighborhood, and then the next thing you know, you're walking next to Burger King. So then you just turn around and you go back, and then you're back towards all the machines.
Right. Yeah.
Uh
Or,
huh.
for instance, like at the Paul Bunyan show, they have a racetrack. So they have a big outer loop. And then in the inside of the racetrack, the infield is kind of sectioned off in a grid pattern. So you
Yeah.
have like, a straight line down one side and another line and then cross, everything's like in a grid. Here
Uh
it
huh.
was kind of like this one path kind of flowed over to the right. And then all of a sudden you'd kind of have to cut across and then it would come back to another little
All right.
spot. And I don't know, just, it was just awkward, maybe is the word.
Well, as my parents would always tell me, because I was different growing up, they would tell me that I was special. It's not that
Ah,
I was different.
yes.
Not that I was different. Well, mom would say I was special. Dad would say you're not right. Yeah. So what did you see up there? Were the traditional vendors that you see at these events, were they there? Was it more of like a logging show? Was it firewood? Was it chainsaws? What was it?
It was a mix of everything. So yeah, all the big name vendors, all the heavy logging equipment, um, machines were on display, log splitters, firewood processors, chainsaws, sawmills, all of that stuff. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And the one cool thing they did is on Saturday around noon, they like took all of the big equipment and they take it out of the festival grounds, and then they'd have a parade
All
through
right.
the street of the town, and then the parade ends on the infield of this little, like, right by the grandstand.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of cool to just sit there and like watch all this big, like the big Tiger Cat forwarders and the big, cranes and all the stuff come through on this parade.
Yeah. Well, that sounds really exciting though.
Yeah.
Maybe you could have sat down on one of those self-propelled log splitters. You could have drove that. You could have drove that around town.
That would have been nice. I would have enjoyed that.
Yeah. Well, no, that sounds cool though. I mean, the weather obviously probably puts a damper on things, but I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. That it's more of like a local institution,
Yeah. Yep.
and the locals really come out and support it. That sounds kind of cool. Makes me wish I would have gone, but I gotta. I had to move two daughters back to college that weekend, so there was priorities there. So let me ask you this, Dan. Let's think about the firewood. That's the firewood vendors, the firewood dealers that are up there. I want you to clear your mind, and I just want you to just start naming off every dealer, every manufacturer that was up there that was involving firewood. I'm not going to start the clock on you, but I'm going to test you here. So you just put it in your head and just go.
All right, so we had Brute Force was there. AJ Shaver from Shaver Specialty and Equipment. I think he was there with the Brute Force, like splitters, processors. Um, Split was it? What's the little self-propelled one? Split Force or something like
Something
that.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, they were there. Timberwolf, um, Multi-Tech Processor, Wolf Ridge, Easton Made, and I can't remember all of them, but there were quite a few firewood specific vendors at the show. Cord King. Um, there's there was a lot of them.
Was Dinah?
Yes. Yep. Dinah was there.
Hacky Pilky?
I did not see them, but I did see the is it Typhoon?
Typhoon.
Typhoon, that yes.
Isn't that a good looking machine? I
Yeah,
like that machine.
I like the colors of that machine.
I love the colors.
Yes.
I wish I would have made my business colors that color. I just love
Yeah.
that color blue. Yeah.
But the one interesting thing is, and I think this is becoming more of like a I don't know. What's kind of attractive for the vendors to go to shows like this is, for instance, like Wolf Ridge, all of the machines they brought out there, except one, were already sold and being picked up. So I think it's kind of like these shows are kind of turning into where you can order your machine, and instead of paying shipping, you can pick it up if you're local to the area and come to the show.
Yeah.
And I think Easton Made was the same way. I think all of their machines were already sold. So it works out great for the vendors to do that.
Yeah, I bet you that is one thing they love, is not having to take stuff back with them.
Yes.
Especially Easton Made, because they have to go across the border.
Yep. and that was the one thing when I was walking around, there were some of these huge tents, like 40 by 60 tents, and they were full of like vendors selling, chaps, chains, bars, saws, all kinds of stuff. Tools, sweatshirts. I mean, and all I could think of was, how long is it going to take to pack all this stuff up and head out of there?
Yeah, boy.
Or how long it took to set it all up. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Did you see a stacking machine while you were there?
I saw several. There were many of them.
Really?
They were walking around everywhere with their jackets on, and it was there. Yeah, the only stacking machine were humans I saw.
Really? So there was no stacking machine.
Not yet.
Did you see the Posh Pack Fix?
I did not. I did, and that was the one thing you had asked me to look for, but I did not see it.
So it was not there.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no stacking machine.
Mm-hmm. How about any wrapping? How about any wrappers, wrapping machines, or boxing machines, anything like that?
Nope, just your typical like bundle maker, like the Wolf Ridge bagging station. They had that on display. But yeah, nothing along those lines.
Okay. And then how about any kilns? Were the kilns there?
I did not see any of those either.
Wow.
I did see a few outdoor wood boilers.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
Did you check them out any?
Yeah, and again, though, it was the same, the major names that, Crown Royal, Heat Master, or what is it?
Isn't that a liquor? A whiskey, Crown Royal?
I think so.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was, I mean, all the typical big name vendors were all there. And yeah, it was just
all right.
Part of the day, like I said, on Friday with the weather the way it was and the conditions of the grounds, I kind of just hung out in one spot for most of the day.
What was the food situation? Were there a lot of like fair food vendors there?
Yes, and that is the one thing I will say was an advantage for having the layout the way it was, is because you could go to certain areas where they had food vendors and the lines weren't very long because it wasn't
All
all
right.
congested into one spot. So that was nice.
That's my one gripe of the Paul Bunyan show in Cambridge, Ohio, is the food situation there's no good. There's not
Right.
enough vendors. The lines are forever, and they need like 10 times more food vendors at the Paul Bunyan show.
Yep. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like you get in line for breakfast and you may as well just turn around and get in line for lunch because you're going to be waiting that long.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm serious. It's that
Yeah.
bad. Dan, there was obviously an avalanche of YouTube personalities and YouTube channels that attended. Why don't you talk to us about the YouTube firewood community at Boonville?
Well, that is the one thing that actually stood out and I enjoyed the most was both getting to see for for some of the channels and then getting to meet some of the newer channels, and then I think just the people that came out to do the same thing, to meet the people from the YouTube channels. So that to me was like the highlight of the show, was seeing all the people I've met before at other shows. And I don't want I don't want to start naming them off because I know I'll forget some of them, but
Yeah.
there was a lot of them, and then there's just a lot of people that came out to obviously take in the show, but also to meet people. And you'd be walking around and all of a sudden you'd be like meeting someone on the pathway and they would just stick their hand out and say, "Hey, I watch you all the time. I really enjoy your program," and so that
All
was
right.
kind of cool. That was nice.
That is what I was going to ask you. Did you meet a number of people that are fans of your channel?
Yes. Yep. And even I was kind of surprised. I was walking by the Bandit wood chipper vendor,
Uh-huh.
and just walking along, and I heard my name yelled out, and I turned, and it was the guy, the vendor that was working there, like came up, introduced himself, and said that he enjoys watching the channel, and kind of talked to him for a little bit. So that's kind of
Oh,
cool.
wow. Did you ask him for a wood chipper?
Well, I don't really have a need for one, but
Yeah. Dan, did you get a chance to interview um, vendors or dealers? That's one thing I wanted to do when I was in Maine, and it wasn't real successful. I would walk around and start talking with people and ask if they wanted to do like a quick 30-second interview. Did you get any of those? How were the people receptive to you about interviewing them?
well, I interviewed. Well, I talked to a few people, but I didn't film it. Uh, Friday, with it being like raining on and off as much as it did, I had planned for Friday to be my day to like film and create content,
Yeah.
and it just wasn't working with the weather, and so I walked around and talked to a few, but I didn't do any filming. I failed on the content creation side of things.
Yeah.
But everyone I talked to, they were very receptive. I'm sure they would have been open for interviewing. A few of the like booths, it wasn't like the actual vendor of the company, but it was like a local distributor or a local dealership. So you were kind of dealing with like the local, I guess, kind of like,
Sure.
in Ohio down there, like Marty is with Bobcat, but he's with Lepo Rents,
Yeah.
Yep.
So did you get the impression then that our industry and the people who were there knew about the YouTube community?
Yes, totally. There was a lot of people that when I did talk to them, they knew who I was. They knew about the YouTube firewood community. I had a guy actually ask about you, and he
Did I
said
owe him money or something? Did he want his wheelbarrow back? What was it?
he asked where the guy from Ohio with the dry sense of humor was.
That's not me. That's he would have said the good-looking guy with all the money, he would have said.
Well, I made sure to clarify. I said, you mean the guy with no sense of humor or the dry sense of
Oh, I kill me. Yeah.
humor? Yep. But no, it was like I said, a lot of people recognize, and I think even some of the smaller channels that were there, people I saw people coming up to them, and there was at one point like a lot of YouTube channels. We were all kind of hanging out in the same area, and it was just like a steady flow of people walking by would stop and say hi to all of us. They knew who
Yeah.
everybody was.
All right. And then I know I'm jumping around here. I saw your live stream. Did the police ever show up? Did you guys get escorted out?
We did not, but we were told that we needed to wrap it up.
Tone it down, huh?
Yep. Yeah,
It
the whole
sounded like near the end of it there was some hooping and hollering,
yep.
especially from one particular YouTube channel who we all love.
Yes, there was a couple woos going on. and
And that's why
and
they came to tell you and they didn't go right to him to tell him to cut it out.
yes, they but we were informed of the quiet hours and how we had gone past the quiet hours and we needed to none be quiet.
Yeah. All right.
But the live stream was a great time again. It was nice to kind of have an area where people could congregate and socialize, and then I was still able to bring people on as a guest. They could sit there and we could talk for a little bit, and it wasn't like too loud and obnoxious.
Yeah, I thought it was nice. You gave a lot of screen time exposure to a lot of different people. I thought you did a real good job with that.
Yeah, at first I was concerned because where I first set up, then that's where kind of everybody started just hanging out. Even though there was another part of the lobby where I was thinking that would be a better spot for the people to hang out in, and then I could, but it was just like, oh boy, because I couldn't hear
Yeah.
myself. I couldn't hear anything coming through the speakers of my computer. It was a little nerve wracking, but
Was
well.
that the same hotel that everyone stayed at mostly?
Um, there was a lot of people there, and then the Holiday Inn was another hotel that a lot of people stayed at. That was just right down the street, like walking
Yeah.
distance.
All right. All right. Well, Dan, I enjoyed your time up there, but I have to ask you, did you enjoy it? Will you be back?
Well, so I had mentioned the part about the adventuring. So Amanda came with me, and she is a big hiker. So on Thursday, the day before the show started, we went out sightseeing, and she wanted to do a couple hikes. And halfway through, that's where my enjoyment ended. Because I was not able to keep up with her, and I just got tired. And so but I enjoyed seeing everything. I enjoyed the show. I don't know yet. I'm not going to like commit to next year, but I would love to go back, hopefully with better weather.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where I have to see if the dates align and coordinate, and
Yeah. I can't help but think that your flight was expensive because of where you live and whatever airport you'd have to fly into up there. So
yeah.
I got the impression it's probably an expensive weekend for you.
Well, the flights weren't too bad. Flew out of Minneapolis to Chicago and then over to Syracuse, and then it was like a 45-minute drive to Utica. So the flight wasn't too bad. I mean, hotel, obviously, we went for a couple days longer just to do that sightseeing. The one thing I will say, though, is that area, there's a lot to see. So if you went there, you could spend like 1 or 2 days like outside of just the show and see all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a lot to
It's
see.
a beautiful part of the world up there.
Yes.
It's funny, when you think about all the beautiful places in this world, the Grand Canyon, the oceans and the mountains and stuff. And like I was in West Virginia last week for vacation, which is a beautiful state. You don't think of New York, but it is. It is gorgeous when you're up there.
Yeah, everyone, when you say you're going to New York, they just think the city. They don't
Yeah,
think of the state, upstate, central New York.
right.
The Adirondacks, very nice.
Yeah.
Just
All right.
too high to climb for me.
Maybe if you were 30 years younger, you could have handled it.
Oh, I don't know. It was a challenge, but like I said, that's the one thing I think if people were ever thinking of putting like the Boonville show on their list of shows to attend,
Yeah.
like you would be able to go spend a couple days sightseeing around the area, and then go to the show and have a complete like fun-filled weekend/vacation.
So that is probably your last show leading up to the Paul Bunyan show in Ohio, first weekend in October. Is that right?
That is correct. I think it's like seven weeks away.
Yeah, we're getting close. Man, it's almost going to be October. We're almost into September now, and it's going to be October. And I know that
Yeah.
my phone's been starting to heat up. I'm predicting a big sales year for firewood, and I'm making it as fast as I can. But 90-degree weather doesn't cooperate any.
The one thing I will just add that was kind of fun, and I don't know why this kind of geeks me out, but driving around sightseeing, you would not believe the number of roadside firewood stands I saw.
Oh
Like
wow!
I bet you I saw 50 just
No
on the
kidding.
one day. Yep. Everywhere.
Maybe there's an ordinance up there that if you own a house, you must have firewood for sale at your mailbox.
Yeah, and the thing is like I don't know how, like if I lived up there, I think I would strategically place one stand a little bit further down the road than the other so that people drive by it and then it like clicks in their mind and they're like, all right, we'll stop at the next one.
Yeah.
Because there is always
Must be a
one
lot
more.
Must be a lot of campgrounds up there then, I would think, if that's what all the firewood stands are for, huh?
Yeah, campgrounds and like a lot of like resorts and I think just like, I don't know, vacation spots on the lakes and rivers.
Yeah. All right. Good to know. That could be a nice road trip one day. You can stop and critique everyone's roadside stand.
Well, it was interesting because they were all $5, like $5 for a little cube of wood. And
Uh-huh.
then all of a sudden we got to a certain point where it went to $6. And then after that, everyone was $6.
That meant you were getting closer to the campground.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, Dan, thanks for sharing your weekend with us and letting us all experience something that a lot of us didn't have the time or the ability to attend. I thought you did a really good job.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it was a good time. If you if you want to see more, I guess you can go to YouTube and just search for the Boonville show. Like you mentioned, there's multiple channels there, multiple videos out there to watch. And overall, it was a great little adventure.
Yeah, Dan, I thought you did a great job, as did all of the YouTube channels that were up there. And that's what I was wanting to start naming them all off. But then, of course, you're going to leave someone out, and I don't want to snub anyone either. This channel is about including everyone, not excluding.
Right. Yeah, I have trouble remembering names that, people I just met 5 minutes ago. And so I know I would definitely leave somebody out.
Yeah. Frank, you and Jenny, I think you both did a great job up there.
Why, thank you, Ben.
All right. Well, Dan, how about let's end this and I'll let you get back to clearing out your inbox.
Yeah,
And you can get back into the swing of things of reality.
I'm behind. And I'm not really, I don't think that far behind, but I just feel like I'm behind. So I got to get myself caught up.
Yeah. It's just like a firewood delivery service. You're just never caught up.
You may as well not even try. You're just always going to be behind.
That's right. Yeah. All right. So Dan and I want to thank everyone for listening to our podcast and helping make the Woodhounds the #1 firewood podcast in the world.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks everyone. And maybe one day, we might have to go to one of these shows and like broadcast a live stream from it.
Yeah. That would be
That'd
good.
be an
We could put
ideal.
it next to the relaxation tents. People can come there and fall asleep.
That is why, folks, you can find us every Wednesday morning at 5 a.m. Eastern. So we're bright, early, wide awake when you listen.
That's right. And if the streaming service that you're listening to us on has a rating system, believe it or not, when you give us a 5-star review, that really does help us be found by others out in the podcast universe.
Yes, indeed. So thanks once again, everyone. And yeah, I'm gonna go get busy.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you. And Dan, I will ask that you stay
Safe,
be
cool,
and have
a great day.